Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd like to thank you for organizers for providing this wonderful and invaluable opportunity to make a presentation in this wonderful audience. I'd like to, this afternoon, actually, my topic is U.S.-China relations and the Korean Peninsula, but the first part of this Beijing forum actually is a new type of great power relationship. It means actually U.S. and China relations. So I'd like to focus more on and the relationship among the three rather than the U.S.-China relations itself. Because in other panels they are discussing a lot of the relationship between the United States and China, or the great power relationships. But this is topic also very important in East Asia. Let me briefly explain why it's important. And also, I'd like to make a presentation based on one assumption. Actually, it's not assumption, but kind of premise. This region, Northeast Asia especially, and this region is economically interdependent to each other more than ever before. But the premise is interdependence does not automatically breed the political and security cooperations. That is the basic premise. So then, my assumption is this: the goal of their regional cooperation, for what? Peace and development. Also, peace and cooperation is quite obviously clear. It's a clear common goal of the regional countries. But the problem is how to get there. So let me start from this, why it is difficult, what is the problem to get the goal, I mean the peace and the stability and the cooperation. The first stumbling block to regional cooperations, there are a lot of factors involved here, as you see, but it's quite general. This East Asia, especially Northeast Asia, is characterized by diversity of regional states with different historical background, even though we enjoy a very similar cultural background, but the historical background is not so identical. Also different threat perceptions. Also the existence of strong extra-regional ties. And also this region is a lack of leadership. And now already the first president mentioned the worsening relationship between China and Japan. And also another one is also rising nationalism in this region. Well, this is very common factors. And then what kind of features of this regional security architecture, even though we don't have any architecture here, but now is moving toward that kind of security architecture, then what kind of features we can find? It's now, I think, it's a move from the hub and spoke system of a bilateral alliances system toward a more multilateral, but it's never reached the multilateral mechanism or multilateral system. But the mini-multilateral mechanisms such as the trilateral strategic dialogue already studied here, and this kind of a minilateral arrangement is not to replace the bilateralism or the alliance relationships. Already, I think it's still the alliance relationship is still is very strong in this region. And another features of this region, it is not only to this region. The United States and China relations is one of the most important factor in deciding the future security architecture in this region. Then what kind of features we can find in terms of U.S.-China relations? One word is complex interdependence. First, in the economic interdependence and the competition of FTA network is, as already mentioned in other panels or some other areas, is a free trade agreement versus TPP. FTA is favored by China, whereas the TPP favored by the United States, but I don't think they are contradictory each other. They could supplement each other eventually, but at the moment I think actually they contrast each other. And second features lack of strategic trust. It means a mistrust between the two. Still, that's one reason why this regional security situation is uncertain. I mean, the future of this region still is characterized by uncertainty. Well, I don't have to explain this, but the flashpoint is Taiwan and North Korea and some territorial dispute among the regional countries. Also competition and the cooperation at the global level, including the energy and climate areas. So there's a lot of different, depending upon the issues. It's the relationship between the two is quite complex. Then let me talk about a little bit about how they are important to each other. The U.S. top trading partner, the ranking number 2 is China. But to the China, the ranking number 1 is the United States, Japan, and Hong Kong, and also South Korea. So they are number 1 or number 2 trading partner. So that's why they are interdependent to each other, and then still they need to build trust. But here is a mutual perception I think is also important. But based on that kind of perception, the United States policy toward China is now I think is in the making in a way, because the U.S. The policy toward China is based on the U.S. global strategy and Asian policies, and U.S. policy toward Asia. What is the basic goal is to prevent the emergence of hegemony in the region by maintaining strategic balance and stability. Also, the United States perceive the Asia the most important reason why, because Asia has 6 of the 10 fastest growing export market, and the 3 of the top 6 states spending defense budget, and 6 of the world's largest militaries. Well, then, what kind of strategy they have? U.S. rebalancing strategy is already mentioned earlier in other panels also. But the point I want to make is that just the United States want to not to come back. Just he want to make a presence here to deepen the U.S. credibility in the region, especially at the time of the fiscal constraint, because their military budget is reducing now, I think. So many partners, alliances, they are worried about that kind of a trend, but they wanted to reassure the partners and alliances they will not reduce the defense spending at the expense of the Asia-Pacific security. That's the one message. What about the China's strategy? As characterized the new type of great power relationship. Well, this is still, we have to need to discuss further, but the basic concept is win-win. The concept is based on the idea of win-win or mutual respect of the core interest of the great powers. It's a very good word, I think, but how to do that is also a problem. And one reason is regarded as hedging U.S. power through non-military instrument, and also at the same time, China is concerned about the neighboring countries, so they want to give some reassurance to the neighboring countries while they increase their influence with the soft power, or while they increase the influence of the multilateral institutions. And this kind of reassurance strategies now is vis-a-vis the United States. Actually, they are strengthening that kind of strategy. So, but these two countries, how the relationship between the two evolve, is greatly affects the future of the Northeast Asia as well as Korean Peninsula. That is the major focus of my presentation. Before getting that, if you look at this pictures map, now I think it's the first island chain, is second island chain is quite familiar to the security expert maybe in this room, but they are perceived. I mean, China is now moving forward to Pacific Ocean, because China used to be a continental power, it's not maritime power. But last year at the 18th Party Congress, the Jintao, the working papers has officially announced China will construct sea power. It is very, very important because never try to get out of this kind of lines. I mean, until now, actually, China was basically is a continental power. As a continental power, they did not build so fastly the naval power. But now I think is Chinese naval power is growing very, very fast. So in this case, China has already got this Najin Songbong area in the border area between North Korea and China. They could use this port. This kind of movement is perceived by United States, Japan, and Korea together. I think, oh, now it's China is coming out. Then, what kind of intention they have? That is the problem, because China never make it clear what kind of intention. But basically, China is now have a they rely on a lot of imported materials and also export a lot of materials. That's why they need to secure the slot, sea lane of communications, and also transportation, the route, and also this kind of ocean is well. This is not a it's not new, but in the past it's not so important as now, because in order to make the Chinese economy grow further, they need to secure the security of the transportation route, and also they wanted to control this kind of oceans, and also even though they don't want to be a maritime power itself. So that's why this kind of perception and misperceptions is actually to make it difficult to cooperate each other. That's one reason, I think. Okay, then let me get. But it's not just because of Chinese the bad intention, because it's never perceived by the outsiders as correctly, even though China is repeatedly say, "Oh, we have no intention to, encroach the other sphere of influence or something like that," but still is not regarded as true or not. So that's why we needed to build this strategic trust here. But still, we have we can find some stabilizing element in these two, in the relations between the two. One is a top-level exchange, the communication channel. For instance, the strategic and economic dialogue. It's going on and very well. At the fifth round already held in this year, and as they discussed a lot, especially the United States and China, they begin to resume the mill-to-mill relationship, and also they communicate to each other. It's better for the region. So I think it's this kind of element is a stabilizing element. I skipped this. Okay. One point I want to make is that U.S.-China ROK. The Korean Peninsula is now we have a very serious problem, North Korean nuclear issue. But it's most pressing agenda in Northeast Asia. But North Korean itself, I mean, not the nuclear problem. It's a North Korea regime and the North Korea economic situation, maybe a long-term agenda for the United States and China. Even though they agreed to denuclearize in North Korea, and also a little bit it's made it clear is who's President Xi Jinping in a summit talk with President Obama and with President Park Geun-hye of South Korea, and they made it clear denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is a clear goal, and it gives some priority. Nevertheless, still is I don't believe the six-party talks is resumed very soon, or it will be effective to resolve this issue very soon. So, what is that? I think it's the Korea should play a more active role in resolving this kind of issue. Otherwise, we cannot get guarantee. We cannot the peace and stability in the region guaranteed. Without resolving the North Korean nuclear issues, no peace on the Korean Peninsula. It means no peace in Northeast Asia. Without peace in Northeast Asia, further cooperation among the regional countries is not possible. So I think it's as I mentioned earlier, a unilateral arrangement is needed to supplement to that kind of a multilateral mechanism, such as six-party talks. How to do that? First of all, this one, the trilateral strategic dialogue among the three, Korea, U.S., China, is already tried. It has already tried track 2 level many times, but even 1.5 level is tried for the first time this year. So this one is a good move, I think, to move forward that kind of direction. And also, another thing, actually, to strengthen the institutionalization of the Korea, China, Japan cooperative mechanism through Korea, Japan, China summit talk. We tried to resume this summit talk this year, but it's failed because of strained relations between China and Japan. But we need to try harder. One more thing I'd like to make a point is the Korea now is proposing the peace and cooperation initiative. While we are trying to do that kind of a trilateral, unilateral security arrangement, we proposed, our government proposed, Peace and Cooperation Initiative. What is that? This is, well, the security cooperation is not easy. Without resolving North Korean nuclear issue, well, still we cannot do anything just without resolving North Korean nuclear issue. We have to do something to further cooperation in this region. That's one reason why to propose this Peace and Cooperation Initiative. Up to that, trust building in Northeast Asia. Multilateral security cooperation is not so effective. Then bilateral security cooperation enough. We need multilateral is still needed, and then we also need to build a conflict prevention mechanism in this area. How to do that? First, we start from the cooperation in non-traditional security issues. For example, is nuclear safety issues and the energy or environmental issues can be discussed among the three countries and among the regional countries. And I'm not talking about the kind of a spillover effect from the non-traditional to traditional security issues. What I'm suggesting is issue-specific communication channel should be built among the regional countries. But we could start from this kind of non-traditional security issues. With this kind of mini-lateral, also trilateral mechanism, security cooperation mechanism, we can promote some cooperation, and also we can reach the goal of the peace and stability in this region. Thank you for your attention.